Hello, everyone. Philip Lee returning with a new episode of Civil War Chat. Today is November 26, 2022. Click on the subscribe button here in the lower right to subscribe to the channel. And also, the way YouTube makes this work is you also got to click on the notification bell in the far upper right, that little notification bell, to be notified when these episodes are released. When I release new episodes, the notification bell is the thing that will enable you to be notified. So anyway, today our topic is changing the world. Activists who tear down Confederate statues view themselves as members of a crusade to, quote, change the world. They justify the destruction of memorials to the dead as a way to condemn earlier generations of Americans who did not share our country's modern perspective on racial equality. Many of these activists assumed that they would have championed the modern viewpoint had they lived 160 years ago, even though they would have been among a tiny minority of their countrymen at the time, and probably ostracized. The presumed necessity of sweeping away the old has taken on the mantle of a religious tenet in the Church of Identity Victimhood. After all, didn't Steve Jobs define Apple's mission as changing the world of computers, media, and consumer electronics? Didn't he ridicule Microsoft's character-based user interface? Did he not dump it into the dustbin of history with the graphical user interface of the Apple McIntosh? Did he not destroy the compact disc recorded music form factor with the iPod? Similarly, today's Confederate Memorial demolishers and vandals consider themselves on a similar mission to destroy the past. But there are two problems with their illusion. First, Steve Jobs did not destroy past paradigms merely because he did not like them. Instead, he provided something obviously better to replace them. It did not take the public long, for example, to realize that the iPod was far superior to the music CD. It was not just marginally better, it was far superior. Even the first iPod, the first version of the iPod, enabled the owner to carry 1,000 songs around in his pocket. Furthermore, he could buy them instantaneously over the internet. He did not have to visit a physical store, which was not even open for business during most of each 24-hour daily cycle. Among technology startups, it's long been a maxim that change the world products must offer at least 10 times the advantages of an existing paradigm. A product that is merely 30% better or 20% better is not able to attract enough early adopters. It's like comparing first class seating to coach seating in an airline. Confederate iconoclasts don't even offer something 30% better. In fact, they merely leave animosities in their wake. Really, they don't leave anything good. Well, let's think this through. One of the animosities is a never-ending litany of complaints about alleged continuing victimhood of the self-serving definers of marginalized classes. As so-called anti-racist Ibram X. Kendi puts it, quote, "The only remedy for past discrimination is present discrimination. The only remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination." Close quote. The destruction of Confederate statues did not reduce the volume of such complaints as Kendi has. It increased them. The widespread deployment of DEI executives, diversity, equity, and inclusion executives, throughout education, government, and corporate America signifies that such complaints will never end. DEI executives will never terminate their own jobs, and therefore these complaints will never end. In fact, they're much more likely to keep growing, regardless of their illegitimacy, regardless of their imagined discrimination. Even today, they fail to realize, these cultural, social justice warriors, even today, they fail to realize that America's only legal form of racism and sexism is a half century of affirmative action, mostly benefiting Blacks and women. A second factor that iconoclasts leave in their wake is resentment among those of us who value tradition. Only 10 years ago, most Americans regarded Confederate statues as symbols of regional pride. They realized that the memorials were overwhelmingly erected out of love for the Southern men who went to war during the Civil War to defend their homes. Confederate soldier deaths totaled 5% of the Confederacy's white population. If America were to go to war today and suffer the same casualty ratio, our dead soldiers would total 17 million. That's 40 times the number of World War II. And the biggest war which was the biggest war that virtually any American alive today can remember. Now, despite his, quote, change the world mantra, Steve Jobs respected tradition when many of his contemporaries wanted to abandon it. While the file sharing services were revolutionizing recorded music distribution around the turn of the century, Jobs opposed them for rampant copyright infringement. He opposed these file sharing services because of their rampant copyright infringement. Now, presumably, that stance that he took encouraged the record labels to help Apple launch the first successful digital music store, now almost 20 years ago. Let the statue iconoclasts consider a Lesotho proverb, because many of them are anxious to distribute proverbs, African proverbs, and maxims of wisdom. So anyway, let them consider this old Lesotho proverb. If a man does away with his traditional way of living and throws away his good customs, he had better first make certain that he has something of value to replace them, close quote. All the iconoclasts have left behind for everyone is dissatisfaction among themselves because they don't get enough and they only want more, and dissatisfaction among those they deliberately chose to humiliate by tearing down the statues and vandalizing them and cutting them up into parts. That's all they've accomplished. Okay, so what can you do about this? This trend continues, especially if things like critical race theory become the accepted interpretation of American history. Then you can kiss all the Confederate memorials goodbye. None of them will stand. Even street names will be taken down. Now, but if you really want to understand what happened after the war, I recommend getting Southern Reconstruction. It's $26 at bookstores like Amazon and Barnes and Noble. You want an autographed copy? Christmas might be a good time to do that. Email me, Phil, PHIL_Lee, LEIGH @me.com. And I'll mail you, I'll send it to you for $30, which will include, I'll cover the postage. Okay, that's our show for today, and I want to thank you for watching. We're in the weekend following Thanksgiving, so I wish you a happy, post-Thanksgiving weekend. Talk to you next time.